to the finance meeting, Tuesday the 5th of April.
Yours.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
That was it.
Yes.
Okay, let's go. Apologies for absence.
None received.
Confirmation minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of March. There's a few minor points. The play centre, last time we talked about moving the lease forward, and there's signs of activity from the play centre, and as a consequence we've got to complete the asbestos works in the pavilion as soon as possible, which is being organised at the moment. Not a big item, but we need to do that before we get past over. There's mention of the second works vehicle, which is coming out in September, item 3 of the summary. I think Councillor Pavley can say a few words on.
We've got a letter saying, we haven't had it for 5 years yet, have we, that vehicle? Anyway, it says that we can extend it for a further year, and we need to see what the price is, but if it's a similar price, it would be a very efficient way of doing it, rather than trying to change it. If they won't extend it, then we need to look at replacing it, and whether it's the right vehicle. But initially, I think we should extend it if we can, yeah.
Yeah, if it's good value.
Yeah. I think it's, ridiculously low mileage again as well.
And it saves us committing for another 3 years for the second vehicle. So my view would be we should, the recommendation was if it's all in about the right price and Terry's happy, then we should just do it.
There we go. Yeah, agree with that.
It actually doesn't come up until September. So we'll sign
But
up.
we need to grab it rather.
Yeah.
There was a rather confused situation about taking £15,000 from the cricket club so they wouldn't lose their grant. Well, all that unravelled itself and we're no longer having to do that. I think Councillor Barry resolved that, I'm grateful to say, and everybody's happy. Is that right?
I just spoke to somebody who then spoke to them. I think that was. I didn't do it.
Just finally, I've got to have myself put comment on the yellow lines, which I can't discuss, but I'll just tell you that
Leave the room.
the Waterside Committee, the Waterside people, which represents 4% of the population of Brightonsea, are somewhat hacked off. They just wanted to pay their £2 one-off money, which is what it costs each of them to have the yellow lines, the faded yellow line restored. That's all they wanted. And so they're going to try and find some way of doing it. They are concerned because down there it is dangerous. You've got cement wagons going up and down and lines of cars parked where they shouldn't be, and it's not good with the summer season approaching.
It's worth saying that the Parking Partnership came down there 3-4 years ago, Rick,
Yeah.
and surveyed the whole area and said, yeah, they need to redo all the yellow lines inside the area. But the Parking Partnership don't really seem to be that functional.
Well, they just took a very pragmatic view. If you want things sorted out and it's costing £2 per household, let's just take it.
I mean, if I can just say something on the NEP budget at the moment, NEP should not be kind of physical or actually doing stuff unless it has a reserve of £400,000. That's in its copyright agreement, and since COVID it hasn't had anywhere near that. So it's been operating outside its agreement in implementing TROs for the last 2 years, which I've been trying to point out to them, and that the agreement needs changing. So we're currently in the process of trying to do that. But this particular issue was addressed by the NEP person who came down with me and Jane saw them about the lines around the station, the doctors, and he said in terms of budget it's not priority, and it's unlikely to be done this year, but the council could pay for it or residents can pay for it. So it's not like they're paying for something. I mean, it should be done within the budget, but we know that the net budget wouldn't cover it this year, probably wouldn't cover it next year from what I can see. So it it is a pretty urgent thing. I've seen it, and I've seen a person who parks there with impunity and says, I'm not moving because there's no yellow lines there, and you can't make me.
Signs there, isn't it?
Yeah, and so I think if the residents want to pay 500 quid, we're just a conduit, the council, we have to pay it because the residents can't pay straight to net, we have to authorise the payment. I don't see what the problem is at all.
Do we have to use net to put the yellow lines down?
Yeah, we
Put
can't
butcher
get a
down?
contractor down now.
We could.
No.
Unless
I think
it's 2
that's-
o'clock in the morning.
But the danger there is, Meg, is that you've got net as whatever they are. I mean, let's not be judgmental on the way they operate too much. But yet we could ask somebody like Rob Butcher, who's got the ticket and licence from Essex County Highways, to do stuff like that, and it's dumb.
I don't know if you could really, but yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know whether I could do it without any kind of official sanction or not, but I don't suppose he'd do it for less than 500 quid.
Well, I suppose you would, but have net actually given a cost? No. Well, it's net, isn't it?
But then if the residents have already looked into it and they know it's only going to cost £2 per,
Yeah, I've got a price on it.
they've got the price, so they must have got the price from somewhere. So I've got to admit, you know, if they want it done, they're prepared to pay for it. Go ahead and get it done, because it's going to do us all a big
It
favour.
is. But the irony of it, when Rick and I went down there, all Net wanted to do was put red paint on the road, wasn't it? And they would have done that the following week.
Can I ask a simple question? Are their finances improving from that bad COVID period? Are they going to get back to a stable position, or
Very
Is
small
this-
surplus forecast for this year. We wait for the final account.
could be years will they get up there?
They will get that 400,000.
I would recommend that if the residents want to do it, let them do it. Also, and go through Net if that's where their prices come from, because Net will then know they've got to police it, won't they?
Well,
So
that's why it's there, I suppose.
I mean, there's the Residents Association down there, and there's also the Management Board, both of which represent everybody, and both of us sit down with it and will pay, like now.
So do it.
yeah, that's the answer.
So that's it.
Yeah.
Can you put me down as an abstention just because I'm a resident?
Okay. Would anybody like to propose the minutes of the record?
I will.
Second.
Yeah, okay.
Members are reminded of the requirement to disclose any interest in relation to items on the agenda when these are discussed. Item 4. This is an attempt to reflect the year-end position, just so that you know, every month produce a set of figures, and they're on a cash accounting basis. Then what normally happens is, so we should produce one of those for this month, and then they are turned into a different set of accounts at the end of the year, which is accrual accounting, which looks at debtors and creditors and all the rest of it. But because we wanted to try and sign off the accounts next meeting if possible, this set of figures you've got here are the end of year figures manually amended to try and reflect what the true situation is at the end of the year, which will be confirmed in a week or two when we've done all the softwares updated and all the rest of it. So it's an attempt in good faith to tell you where we are, and I think I'm very confident it's correct, but there are some problems with manipulating the software. If we looked at this month, the year-end accounts without manipulation, it would, for example, the sales would be £10,000 up, because we've taken £10,000 because it's cash based. We're taking £10,000 for the dinghy park, for the boat park. So they've got to be stripped out because those monies are for next year. I don't get mixed up this year, next year. So any money for, let's call it next year, then they are prepayments. They're being made this year, are prepayments, and are stripped out at the time of the end of your accounts. 3,000 was owing and would go on the debtors list, which it is, but they happen to be paid on the 1st of April. So I've stripped those out as well. So this is, what I'm trying to say is, this is I think is a true reflection of the year-end position. Does that make sense?
This 4A, Dave.
Sorry?
Item 4A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Do you want the copy then?
No, I've got it here.
Sure.
so it requires a year-end statement, which we made when we got Saturday finished. But I think this is great. So just briefly to go down the list, if we look at sales income, I've highlighted. So the bank interest this year is, we're nearly over £3,000, which is better than it's ever been because there wasn't any interest at all at the moment, and it's far better than the budget estimate. So we're up there. The property leases is up about £2,000, mainly because that's the lease for the jetty, which is due this year, and which wasn't put in the budget because we didn't know it would ever
Get it signed.
come to finalise things. The car parking was an absolute winner, 5,000 up, which is a reflection on the weather. And you might like to know it's virtually in line with in ratio terms, the income that the Lido took compared to previous years. So it also ties in. And next year, that budget hasn't been elevated for that reason. It's back to what we think is a fair. Then the sales income is up £3,000, whatever it is. So then, if you go to the next line down, cost of sales is down on what the budget predicted. So in total, the income figures are up for that reason. Are up just over £12,000, which is a good result. And by the way, that line paid for the machine outside. And by the way, the card machine is now well over half the total income. And if I could just say on the card machine, it's not a card machine, it should be used as a strategic part of our financial controls. So it's got a long way to go and get a lot more benefit from it at the moment. So anyway, sales is up £12,000. But I must admit, anyway, so we've got costs. I think because we're over income, we still have to maintain a tight control on costs, which is what we've done. So without leniency. So just a few facts on the costs highlighted. The legal fees legal consultancy is up £2,000, but that's not the legal, that was the consultancy. There was two items of consultancy. One was the asbestos and one was the heritage pier, which were included in that code. So it was actually the consultant charges, not the legal bills, which were great. Anyway, nevertheless, it was up, which is bad. Subscriptions and courses was £1,000 up, so it just needs a little bit of looking at. Then, if we get to transport machinery, if you take items 22, 23 and 26 together, so that's transport machinery, that was because we bought the new vehicle and we're buying it, as you know, that should be £7,000, but because of good control of the transport and machinery budget generally, it's only at £4,000, so we'll claw £3,000 back. Then if you look at the maintenance, again, control with, say, 2,000 there. And then if we look at item 26, which is improvements, that should have been items of equipment that Terry wanted, and we stopped that, we halved it. So if you look at transport machinery, maintenance and improvements together, we've actually paid for the new vehicle without increasing the budget. And just an interim sort of recommendation, I think we should thank Terry, because with very little encouragement, he's been very cooperative on these matters, without affecting the budget. Then lease administration should be 2,700, it's 1,800, and it's now dropped to zero because we do it ourselves, so it's a significant saving there in the future.
Yep.
Salaries, well, got within 1% of it, 1% lower than we thought, so that's okay. Then the structural reconfiguration, that was a 5,000 allowance for any significant change that we had intended, which we didn't spend. So that's a nice little bit of bonus really. So we didn't spend any of the £5,000. So that's good. And then the contingencies, I should have mentioned by the way that the parish hall was 2,000 over budget, but really the 2,000 probably could have been costed the contingencies, so that's about right as well. So if you look at the end of that, we've got total cost of £383,000. So we were 90, the costs were 98% predicted, so we saved just a little bit. And if you took out the structural reconfiguration 5,000 bumps, then the cost budget, which is about bang on, was within 1%. So that's where we are. So then, if we look at the next line down, operational surplus, if you remember at the beginning of the year, we were trying to make 25,000 surplus, whereas in fact we made £45,000 for those reasons. So we're 18,800 up on the surplus, which would go to reserves in the normal scheme of things, and that's really because our income was up and the costs are controlled, so that's how that worked out. I'll come back to that in a second. Unfortunately, and unbudgeted, we've had to suffer some write-offs, which was Smart Preservation Society legal costs and the bowling club primarily, and those came to a total of 3,500. So you knock that lot off, so we made 40,000 surplus, which is improvement of 15,000 on the estimate. So just out that for a second, if you look at the playgroup got a bit of a mess for various reasons, mainly on utilities, and it was listed as a debtor of 5,400. It's now down to, in the debtors list, it's down to the 2,000, but there's a last minute invoice gone in before the year end, so we're total at 1,200, 1,300. But we're still clawing that back, and that'll be paid back by about July. But I'm suggesting we should just write it off now, because it's a complication and a needless one. So I would like to add onto the write-offs about another £1,200, £1,300. Then the playgroup's finished, and the money that should be paying that off will just come through as an income. So it just makes it simple. If you look at the utilities 24, that looks down, well down on the estimate, but it's all to do with the playgroup utilities. It's a bit complicated, but if we just write it off, that would just we're getting the money back anyway. I think that would be a prudent thing to do.
It's nice to start on a clean piece.
So that being the case, we're going to end up with £13,000. I mean, this is on the assumption when the figures are finalised, it's right. But if it was right, my view would be that we should earmark £10,000 of that. So the second reserves it gets earmarked, and that's for an item that we can use in any way to improve efficiency, change structure, change anything we want. Because I know when you look at these figures, we're doing okay, but there's an awful lot more we can do than this. But it is going to cost us, so that will be an investment. So one suggestion might be that we put 10,000 earmarked for that purpose, instead of just putting it into general reserves. And then the other thing is that the boat park is a major income stream, and I think we should earmark at least a few £1,000s for boat parks down the hard, just to see if we can use that to make it a bit better.
Keep it tidy.
We'll improve it.
Keep whatever ideas. I mean, we had to stop the expensive gates, for example, but if there's a few £1,000s, and when this is done, we'll have a look at that.
Yeah.
But I think so a lump sum we should earmark for that purpose. If we don't spend it, we don't spend it. But for the hard general down that area, mainly the boat park, to see if we can do better, because I say it is a major income stream and we should invest a little bit in it. So anyway, that's where we are at the moment. Is that really clear? Or?
Yeah,
Very good. Yeah, no.
it's a good step. It's a good account.
So is that a recommendation then we take?
Yeah.
Just nice to see these, but well, can we say that if these figures are correct or nearly correct or close, would we earmark those funds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
And depending exactly what figures are, we'll do that sensibly.
Can I just ask Dave, you've got a structural reconfiguration 33 on this list. This £10,000, is that going there then, or is it a different one again?
That's an additional fund.
So next year we'll have another structural reconfiguration?
Yeah. Next year we've allowed the same for structural recon, what we call it.
Yeah.
This £10,000 is effectively added to that for just whatever we think is appropriate to improve efficiency, reconfig, change, whatever.
Right.
But with the objective of being to make the thing work better, the whole financial system to work better. And I think if you saw that's an investment, I think you get your money back very, very quickly and make it far easier to operate. And
Okay.
it's not, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is anybody proposing that?
I'll propose that.
I'll second.
Okay, that's so anyway, so that's my best on in term situation, and we're going to thank Terry for his endeavours. Right, okay. 4B is the financial monthly overview. Tracy.
Thank you very much. Just to confirm, income for March was £22,681.07, and expenditure for March was £33,377.67.
All happy? Right, credit control. Tracy again.
Me again?
Yeah.
Okay, we have in front of you the credit control list for the end of March. As Councillor Atkinson stated earlier, a lot have been paid, as in the Haven for £19,488.91, but that was paid in April, so they were a debtor at the end of the year. A lot of the named people down here are boat park people. Yeah. Any questions?
So just to check that's as of 31st of March?
Yes.
Just to pick on that the
Yes.
police payments in.
I tried,
The
they
day
tried,
before, but
yeah,
then it wouldn't
and
be with happy paid. So. Is that okay, well done?
Yeah.
Tracy, examination of the accounts.
Yes, if I can have two councillors after the meeting, please. We have 26 payments in the sum of £16,705.25, and statements of balances on the following accounts to be accepted. We've got current account at £5,518.62, the business premium account £902, the second premium account £28,646.82, the CCLA Public Sector Deposit Fund £51,012.77, the Instant Access Account £37,458.61, and the current T2 account £13,661.82, which makes a total on all accounts of £137,208.64. As I stated, income for March was £22,681.07. Expenditure for March £33,377.67. Income to date, 1st of April to the 31st of March, £484,261.18. Expenditure to date, 1st of April, 31st of March, £434,011.02, and employee payments paid for the month of March were £17,886.96.
The CCLA public sector, how much did you say?
£51,012.77.
Am I looking at the wrong bit? I've got the law on my, on the wrong page.
No, you're down the bottom.
Down here. Yeah, got it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, got it.
One thing we need to think about is we just had the precept, the first 6 months precept, so we are cash rich at the moment. So we really should get that invested into some of the accounts, with the interest-bearing accounts, which is the Unity and the CCLA.
That's the first time I've ever heard the council say we're cash rich.
Cash rich,
Well
but
done.
Can I just add on to that they have confirmed only last week that we are being paid the LCTSS grant again for this year,
Oh, good.
and we'll be receiving the same amount as last year, £4,950.
Very good.
would you prefer if I said a wash?
No, I think it just
Councillor Steady,
it just shows that we've got the control of these accounts, and often when you do, things happen well for you, don't they? It's money on these, that's good.
Right, so are we might as well increase the Unity back up to its maximum.
Yeah.
For starters, is that?
Yeah. Get interest.
Yeah. And then we've had a quick look at cash flow, and we could certainly put more into the CCLA one, but perhaps we could do a little cash flow for next time round and then decide where it's going, over a period of time. Okay, statement of with item 6, 7 and 8 really involves some policies. I think item which probably should address earlier in a bit more detail, but item 6, is that manual person?
Yes, we had a policy, statement of internal control policy, which was agreed on the 21st of March 24. It obviously needs updating, so I've made a few amendments which I crossed out the old and put the new in red, unless there's anything I've missed.
I was hoping that just to agree that even on an interim basis as a policy, and that's what we're doing.
I'm happy to do that.
Site 7, Council Internal Controller. I think this involves the model councillor, doesn't it?
Yes, we agreed in November 24 that Councillor Morgan would be appointed as an internal controller. And you should have
No extra.
been checking the bank recs and everything for the year 24-25. So now we're at the end of the year, can we pencil in a date please
Yeah,
for
of course.
you to
Yeah.
go through and check?
I'll see you after me.
Then item 8 is risk assessment, which there's various different views and so on. I don't want to move on, but just wanted to, for the next week or so, if you could have just a look at that and at least make a few comments and notes in the internal auditor's report as to where it is, what we're doing, what we intend to do. Would that be reasonable? I think there's been various attempts at different. So we'll look for a few volunteers to look at that in the next week or so. Item 9 is the asset valuation policy. There's a meeting with the internal auditor so Councillor Pavley will talk to this one.
Well, if you go through the plethora of information that we've got in different pieces of files and things like that, you will immediately realise that we seem to be rather inconsistent with the way that we value things and the way that it's accounted for. So after conversation with Trevor Brown, we've decided not in last year's accounts, because it would be right, but to do it in the year 25-26, is to come up with a new valuation policy, which would be an addendum to our financial control documents. And between Dave, myself and him, we had the conversation that what we think the principle should be is it should be the cost price of equipment that stays at the cost price of equipment, because at the moment those seem to be escalated by the insurance value. And so we're valuing something that's 3 years old more than it cost originally, by some extent. So on the cost of equipment, it's price. On land that's not used for anything but as a playing field, for example, that's valued at 0. It's not viable as a commercial. We're not going to sell it, therefore should it be there. And then all other, which is basically then areas of leases, we will lease them at 10 times. We will value them at 10 times value of lease. So at the moment we're doing it at 15, which is apparently quite high, and from financial standards that seems to be quite extreme. So if we do it at 10, so for example the Haven pays us 72,000.
Yeah.
So it'd be 720,000 we would value it at. And that would give some consistency to the way we value everything, and at the same time it's justifiable, and we can actually, because we'll put it into our financial control documents, it's valid for when an auditor looks at it.
Sounds sensible.
And if that could all be done before the various asset transfer things can get going in earnest, that would be a good thing.
I'll write it up as a policy for the next for the council meeting.
Thursday.
Not this one, no.
Speedy.
I just need to know how it attaches. One thing I'm not clear, and I haven't been through it all, is our existing financial policies. I can't find bits that say how it values the assets, because obviously, so I'll have to write a policy that just says this supersedes anything that's written before.
Yeah, makes it. I think that's a very good.
Okay, thanks, Chris. 10 is signage. I have to say we've had a very courteous and polite request to spend £500 on signage by the Environment and Transport team. On that basis, I think we should accept it. It has been, it's for, well, perhaps Gina tells what it's for.
I didn't know if I had to go out, but then you'd all have to go out. To sit here around. Yeah, the signs are for 20 is plenty, which we're going to place in people's gardens if they'll let us to hit some of the areas. And there's some keep off the grass and no parking signs down the Strangers Corner where we have an issue with parking. So
And some
some
signs.
hedgehog aware signs,
Yeah.
wild animal aware signs, yeah.
And these ones keep off the grass, and they just sort of pegs which you
Well,
bang in.
the ones I tried to get my picture up and I couldn't do it. They're a sign with a little peg on them with the stick in the ground. And I think Kerry's already bought some which are stickers on, but we're not sure where we can put them. So, but we can use them somewhere else.
Well, I believe she said they were quite insignificant.
Okay, but we can probably use them. But she paid for them, so
Yeah.
we should reimburse her.
I mean, that was a budget item for
Yeah,
next year.
I think the other signs were £10 each, and they were sort of with a sticker on.
Yeah.
And Terry's going to do that for us in conjunction with one of the residents in that area.
It's a good action point, really, that.
I think they're all done.
It is county ground, but we can't think of any other way at the moment to help him with this, help the residents with this issue. So we're going to try this as a start.
Well, they say it's easier to apologise than ask permission, don't they?
Sometimes.
That sort of
Yeah,
thing.
they didn't go against the no parking signs that were put there a few years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know they've all been knocked down,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
a classic example, and I think it was probably 3 weeks ago now, they were all parked up on that grass verge.
Yeah.
They could not get an ambulance into
No,
Strava.
it's not good.
They had to go in
Yeah.
and pull people out
Yeah.
from the football match.
I mean, it's not Stromvar's not objection. It's not them that's. sort
No,
of-
I know,
but it is a very good point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what the signs are for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair, can I put a request in, please, for a donation from council to the regatta of £32 for the food bank stall at the regatta?
Should I leave the room?
Can we just say yes?
Thank you.
Oh. Bit more expensive. No, this is quite serious. So, do you remember we put in the Section 106 agreement for the shelter, and that's going through and has been paid. all that. And if you remember, we also discussed putting a light on,
Yeah.
and we did it separately because we couldn't get the quotes. Well, the quote's coming in for about £700. And I don't know if there's a day minute of us on the Section 106s, but it seems a lot of paperwork and a lot of pain to go through for £700. I mean, we can still make the application, but I just wondered if we still want to go ahead with that. Or
The application I made to tendering
Yeah.
was for the Lido shelter plus 2,000.
and they agreed that.
They agreed that, and I said we were still waiting for quotes for the
Okay,
for the
fine.
electrical.
Okay.
So I know you said last time we were just going to do the shelter, but I haven't mentioned anything to tendering. So at the moment they agreed the shelter price plus that, and then of course if it's under what they've said, we'll just invoice them for the amount that's
Yeah.
under. So
No, that's fine. Okay, I didn't realise you'd done that.
yeah.
It's the provisional sum in
And I've got a request from Terry. Not you will have to have a and I know it's already been discussed, but can he go ahead and order the new brush for the Ventrac? Because he couldn't clear the beach or something.
Yeah, we've got an itemised, for Terry, we've got an itemised, we can't do it this month.
No,
Going
but
forward, there's an item list of all the things that are take down for, and I've got the brushes on there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I assume
Sure.
so.
Sure, he's got a maintenance budget and you can use this month anyway, can't you?
Yeah, but we've,
Yeah.
we've got one, it's just we can't, from now on, one of these for Terry or anybody wants one, there'll be a list of all of his breakdown, what he's going to spend,
Yeah.
and how much he spent,
Okay.
so that helps him
Well, that's good.
judge it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a named item.
Yeah, no, it was just mentioned, and he said that's now quite urgent, and
Yeah,
it just
it
needs
is,
to
yeah.
get going for the
Yeah,
season.
well, I'll issue that sheet.
Okay.
And then but I'm sure it's on there. So.
Chair, sorry, I forgot to mention, and I'd like to mention, the 20 is plenty signs. We are going half with town and country estate agents. They are making up all the boards for us. So it's really, I'd like that minuted and mentioned.
Okay.
Thank you.
How do we put our names down for one outside our house?
Well, we're targeting particular areas, Sean, so
Okay.
let you know if it's your area. But at the
Oh,
moment,
we
we've got our own.
Are you going to see the design before it's printed?
Sorry.
Are you going to see the design before it's
Yeah,
printed?
hopefully, yeah. ENT will see it.
Yeah.
And we're going to target, especially at the moment, the Western Road,
Yeah.
Lower Park Road, and further up, so that it hits it before
Church Road.
we come down into, where they cross for the parking at the school.
Yeah.
But then we can extend it to wherever we like, as long as people are happy to have a sign
Because the
in
sign's
their
movable.
garden. Yeah.
On the Ventrac, I read one of the minutes or one of the notes that we were going to approach tendering for some contribution towards replacing the brushes. Have we got a summary of hours? Or
I thought you'd been given that after a meeting before.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Could I have that now?
Yeah.
Make some inquiries as to some contribution. How much is it?
£10,000.
No, it's about thousands, isn't it?
Oh,
1,200.
for the new brushes.
Yeah, but the brushes were that long and they're now about that big.
So that's why they're
Yes, I mean it's a great machine there, Ventrac, actually.
But what should do is look at the annual cost of running the machine.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but they work it hard.
No, but I mean, if we're going to look for a contribution, might be.
Yeah.
They work it hard because of the work they do for tenders.
That's
Yes,
what they've been
yeah.
doing. They've
Well,
been clearing the
hard,
beach,
Yeah.
and which technically is tendering's job, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Fair
fair.
to do so. It's been working hard in the boat park as well.
No.
Yeah.
Can I just add something about
Well, they're piling in now.
No. Just a note that FCA approved recommended that we are writing to the Cold Yacht Club to put the water tap back on. They are going to just give us a small bill of usage only, so that will be a facility for the boat club.
Right. Don't need more hands going up.
Well, you've given them £33.
Right, AOB.
I thought that one there.
Right, would the public gallery like to ask any questions?
I'm glad to see the big the tap in the boat park. It seems to be an ongoing issue. Have you written to them?
Yes. Yeah, no, they've written back and said yes. So we're going to put the tap on in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And
2 or 3 weeks? I've got to drink water from the jetty tap over there.
Are you doing 2 or 3 days, please?
Yeah, as soon as I possibly can. I mean, we have to prove it on Thursday, and then we can write to them, they'll put it on, and then it'll be done. And we're getting the lights done as well for the nighttime lights. We want to improve that boat park, so it's a good facility for the licensees.
Any more?
Can you just update us really on what's happening about the cricket club pavilion come social club, really? Because there was something put on Brightonsea Spot about starting work in September. What's the finance? If you could just give us the up-to-date on that, please.
I think we're meeting a lot longer when they're trying to raise the necessary funds.
I'm still trying to
They're still trying to raise the funds. That was
Even the toilets might be open.
But I do know they've spent quite a lot of money on getting building regulations, which seems to be premature, but that was part of one of the funding conditions. So they seem to be moving forward as far as I know with it.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people have said to me, well, several people, that our equipment, where is it going to be stored, and that's the main thing for the town point of view.
Yeah.
Where's it going to be put? There's a lot of money, and it's got to be for insurance and stuff. That's several people have said that to me, but
Well, that'll be the first stage.
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
They're fully aware of that, aren't they?
yeah.
And we've identified a space of roughly the same square meterage as the one we've got at the moment.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
One more question, please, Mr. Heritage Key, can I have an update, please?
I'll give you an update that we have put a proposal back to the MMO, more in line with the MMO with the wish, and after a lot of thought it went to council, it's gone to the MMO, it's had discussions with IFCA and Essex Fisheries and so on, and we've had an email back saying they are now fully considering our proposal, and we are most keen that they accept our proposal and we can move on.
So what is your proposal?
Well, I don't know whether I should be saying what the proposal is because the MMO at the moment considering it.
You mean that's a Part B discussion?
No, it's not a Part B discussion, but it's with the MMO, and I think we should let them make their decision. I think they may slightly alter it. They might come back to us and say yes, but could you do this? Could you add this? And I think the council is keen to accept what the MMO wish to do with that heritage pier.
What do they wish to do with it?
Well, I think it's more to do with fishing. They want more fishing usage of it, primarily.
Do you mean to say if that has to be disbanded, in the beginning there was planning permission obtained for Heritage Quay, Platinum Square and also the ferry landing stage at Point Clear? Then pontoons could be used to the ferry landing stage.
Okay, can we wait for the MMO?
I think one step, we should hear from them in the next hour, I think, week or two.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't
In the next hour?
Next week.
You can hang around.
I might say so. It will be discussed Thursday.
Well, if it comes in, but at the moment we're just letting them. They are discussing it with several other people in the fishing industry. But I know that they're considering it quite deeply.
There's only one commercial fishing boat in Brightonsea.
Well, there may be another one now joining, and we have had some contact with another fisherman who might like to
There's
start
charter
using
boats,
it.
but not commercial fishing.
Yeah, but we're not just looking at fishing as fishermen. We're looking at also aquaculture and stuff like that. Which is
You mean to say they're going to have tractors tied up to it?
only at low tide.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk us through that if that's okay, Martin. Any other questions? No, okay then. The meeting finished.
Hang on.
What? I thought you were interrupting when I said meeting's finished.
No. Maybe we could have the next one last night.
It was easy, like,
Yeah.